have never seen that many events happening in Abu Dhabi in 1 year as much as 2023 and 2024. And also with our regular meetings with the Department of Culture and Tourism, it will only keep going up and up and up and up. More and more events, more tourism. The reason why they are also supporting holiday homes or short-term rentals in general is because the capacity of the hotels that currently exist in Abu Dhabi will not be enough to sustain the demand that we are getting, that we will get for Abu Dhabi in terms of tourism as well as businesses and everything else. Al-Raha is now opening a whole gaming community. Have you known about that?
Yeah, I heard about it. Yeah.
So very small ideas they are doing here or there, boosting the market. But what I personally love about Abu Dhabi is that some people, they might say that they are a little bit slow, but they are always consistent and they are always sustainable. And when Abu Dhabi does something, you know that it's working. Investors generally are tending more into apartments when it comes to short-term rentals. And what I feel like, for example, they are purchasing villas for their families and to live in, but they are also purchasing apartments to have it listed as holiday homes in general. What do you personally think about short-term rentals in general?
This is, for me, as an investor, it's less headache, less operation. It's a relief for me. This is how
and
I
higher
consider it.
ROI.
And high ROI.
That is as an investor.
Yes.
Now, as a real estate expert, what do you think about short-term rentals?
The only concern, it's like, when you manage a property, you have to make sure that you hire a certain agents, okay, to manage the property, a maintenance company to provide the services, which is, I'm not sure it's going to be provided by short term. You can guarantee the quality of a clients who are going to move in. I know we are talking in real estate about 1 year contract or minimum 6 months contract. In Airbnb or short term, we are talking about maybe daily, clients moving into the apartment, which is putting the apartment in risk somehow, destroying some assets or change a cost of changing some assets also. I'm not sure about it.
So some of the difficulties that you may imagine as a real estate expert, not as an investor, as an expert, is basically someone destroying the furniture, not taking care of the apartment, because as you said, they are coming on short-term rentals, right? They are not staying for 1 year. They are not.
And the cost, it's going to be the replacement, it's going to be every time with a certain damage.
Of course, it makes perfect sense. Now, some of the things that are actually good to know, right? When you apply for a holiday home permit, the first actually prerequisite is having the unit insured. You need to have full insurance on the unit itself. So with that insurance, you can always make up if, God forbidden, somebody has actually destroyed anything in the furniture or in the unit itself. One more thing is that for every single guest, whether he's booking on Airbnb, Booking.com, or any of the tens of platforms that we post on, including Silkhaus.com, is that he has to provide an Emirates ID or a passport. So with his legal documents or with their legal documents as a guest, we can always backtrack and know exactly what happened, and we can always reach out to the guest. If not, we can always take a legal case against the guest itself.
Even if he's going to be a visitor, let's say, especially people who's visiting the country as a visitor, without residency, without
Makes perfect sense.
And you mentioned the layover, which is people who's going to come into the country, just to stay for few hours using the premises, then leave.
In that case, this is where the insurance actually helps us out, as well as the government helps us out. So let's say, for example, somebody has destroyed the furniture and he has traveled. I'm not going to follow him back to England, for example, to get
It's going to be the insurance to cover all the expenses.
This is where the insurance comes. And the insurance also covers if, God forbidden, somebody got injured or, la samah Allah, God forbidden, died in the apartment. Or balaha died. Okay. The insurance also covers a third liability, where in case someone got injured, God forbidden, of course. So this is where Silkhaus, as a short-term rental company, comes into play. So we manage the property on behalf of the owners from A to Z. And when I say A to Z, I literally mean A and everything between up to Z. So in case if there's any maintenance problems, in case if there's any furniture damages, in case there are any check-in and check-out problems, and this is where we know how to price it properly. We know how to generate the highest ROI possible in the areas that we are working with. with full operations, of course, team available.
One of like when I offered them the idea like short term, this is to generate like a higher ROI. Debates always about like the fees, which is like 20%, 15%. With this is like it's gonna be we'll end with like a similar ROI similar to the annual one. This is I can't justify it. I don't have like the evidence to justify it except my experience. Yeah, and which is I share it almost with most of my clients, especially the investors, not the
Exactly.
end users.
So generally, investment is always about you putting up upfront money and getting something in return. The nice idea about short-term rentals is that basically you are not paying a huge upfront cost, right? Now, what we charge is not a fixed cost that comes on monthly basis, right? What we cost basically is what we are generating for you. So if you think about it, is that I'm getting profit into your pocket and I'm taking my cut from that specific profit. Now, if we work together the same way that we want to work together, if we have the apartment beautifully furnished, if the location helps, you are an expert in locations,
location, yes,
if
yeah.
the building is in great condition, if it has all the amenities possible, leave the rest on us. And by the end of the year, if you do not generate minimum around 20%, it could reach up to 35% higher than the annual lease value, you can always drop out.
You mentioned locations. My concern is now we mentioned earlier that Abu Dhabi is growing and expanding from like the island towards Dubai, and there is many communities. Communities targeting like a certain investors, even like
Correct.
the owners. Do you think like location of Freeman, location of Bloom Living is there is any potential of having like it's gonna be like a destination for visitors, people to move in using the ideal Airbnb
Or
short term?
short-term rentals. I believe that today there isn't a very high demand for it, but in the future it will definitely have demand. One brief example is Masdar. We are noticing a huge demand in Masdar, although to be brutally honest, I'm one of the people who thought that Masdar is not going to be doing great on short-term rentals. But what we are noticing is that especially with the new Zayed airport opening, is that so many people are booking in Masdar because you do not have alternative accommodation there. You do not have hotels. So tourism definitely plays a role. People working in Dubai want a much shorter route to take to Dubai. So this is where Shakhbout Shamkha helps. This is where Riman Bloom helps. This is where Khalifa A helps in all these projects. So by time, the more the city expands outside, the more demand we will have for short-term rentals in general. But today, I think the demand is not as high as we both want it to be.
Competition between like companies. What do you think? Why I have to choose like Silkhaus?
One of the main reasons is that competition comes if you are studying any company in general, right? You have to go back in the history of the company itself. How long have you been in the market? And how many apartments are you managing? These two will give you an answer is that when you face a problem, how are you going to fix it, right? We have been in the market for almost 3 years now. We have over 500 apartments. So respectfully, if there is any problem that Miss Yasar is going to be facing with her apartment, we have faced that problem and we have solved it. So generally, it talks about the data, talks about the performance, which we have, talks about all the corporate deals with the biggest names in the real estate market that we have. Dubai, Emaar, Abu Dhabi, we have so many that we can discuss as well. So it all depends on the corporations that you are basically having and the experience that you are having.
Do you think there is going to be like any restriction? We are talking about Abu Dhabi. It's a conservative, end of the day, like city. Do you think if there is going to be like any restriction about like communities, like short term on certain communities? We heard some stories about like some certain communities which is not allowing like short term to operate.
Yes.
There, yeah.
Yes. And I completely agree with the government regulations when it comes to that. Now, one problem, for example, or one issue that we have faced is that we were trying to get an apartment permit for the Fairmont, which is in El Marina. And Fairmont and Rixos is right over beside each other. So due to having a hotel in the same exact building, they did not give us the permit.
So it's restricted to a certain activities around like the unit, right?
If it's that close, because like that was a very specific case where Fairmont and Rixos are by the same developer, and the project is literally 50% hotel, 50% apartment owners. So this is one of the main reasons why we did not get a permit, or the Department of Culture and Tourism was not very happy to give us the permit.
The competition between landlords and the company. who's managing short term. What do you think about it? Like as an owner, if I have like a permission to operate and like to manage my property and listed on Airbnb, do you think it's gonna be like,
A competition or a challenge
yes,
for us?
exactly, yes.
Honestly, you'll be even supporting us with that because we are very happy supporting every single person when it comes to short-term rentals, right? So if you are having your own apartment on short-term rentals, you will know the benefit of it, but you will also know the headache of it. So I actually encourage you to start with it. And after a couple of months, we will have a
We will
conversation.
get back to you. We spoke about international clients, right?
Correct.
This is and people who's purchasing now in off-plan projects, and we have like many off-plan projects in Reem, Saadiyat, in Yas. So if people is thinking about like someone thinking about signing an agreement now, it's gonna be like easy to sign, or the way to sign something which is in off-plan.
In off plan. So if the project is still being constructed, we can have an initial agreement that whenever the project is handed over, that apartment is going to be the first one to go live after the building is handed over. So we can definitely have an initial agreement where we discuss all the terms. We can plan ahead so we can save up time. Because with every single new building that is being handed over right now, you will find a couple of units that are being on short-term rentals. But short-term rentals always work in time. The earlier you are in, the more money you can make on the long run because the more reviews you will have on the apartment listings on all the platforms. So he can make the best out of it if he signs beforehand.
This is like the numbers. It's going to be like a prediction, right? It's an assumption about like, how much it's going to be the ROI. This is based on like what? Numbers that's being generated now?
If we are going to jump into the ROI calculation, we have to take into consideration similar apartments or similar buildings in the same area and how they have been performing over the last 2 years, for example. We can also take similar apartments in the same building itself. But we can definitely do a projection for an off-plan project on how much we believe it would generate in the future. But that prediction will be more accurate the more we come into the handover date of the building itself. Because you can always find similar buildings or similar apartments on short-term rentals in the same area.
So you answered the question, which is like sometimes it's crossed their mind, who's gonna manage my property? They have another option beside the like brokerage companies managing the property is gonna be the short term. Who gonna like take care of the whole process, managing the properties, renting the properties, doing the maintenance with the less headache, of course.
Exactly.
Yes.
And what we do, as we discussed, property management agreement, A to Z, full management. So we take off that load or headache from the owner's mind.
Okay.
One thing also, one of the projects that we are very excited to be handed over is Al Maria Vista 1 by Reportage in Al Maria Island. Now, because we have corporate and B2B deals with ADGM in general, we are getting a very high demand for residential short-term rentals in Al Maria Island. And as you may already know, we do not have projects that are residential in Al Maria Island yet, correct?
Yes.
Do we have any?
No,
I
we
don't
don't
think
have
we do.
nothing. It's gonna be like Vista, the first one. Yeah.
So the first one is Al Maria Vista. This is why we already have 10 apartments of owners that are very interested and super excited for the project to be handed over so we can start signing there.
Great.
Who do you think the nationality of the people that are buying real estate in Abu Dhabi for the past 2 years?
Different nationalities, like let's say Russian. Okay, they are still buying in Saadiyat, in Yas Island. We have British, we have Indian, we have Chinese, we have like people who's like living here in Abu Dhabi. They purchase. It's not one property. It's became like they start to build their own portfolio. It's not one unit. It's more than one unit. It's inherited. It's become like an inherited units for the generations.
Of course, because I feel it's a very safe investment.
Yes.
And now they are focusing more on the investment of what they call a real estate wallet.
Yes.
Where experts such as yourself.
Exactly.
assist
This
them
is,
with
you
that.
can see the real estate wallet, which is like, sometimes family, brothers and sisters. They took like, some certain like properties and they manage it and they distribute whatever like the revenue.
So when I want to buy an apartment, I will come to you.
100%, yes.
For sure.
Most welcome.
You'll be happy to support.
Yes. And again, this is why to invest again in Abu Dhabi, why it's a good opportunity to invest in Abu Dhabi, why people, they have to think like moving to Abu Dhabi. It's the future with Ghadan 21. Just read about Ghadan 21. You'll understand exactly the vision. And we have that say in Quran. This is رزقكم في السماء وما توعدون. And we have وما تدري نفس بأي أرض تموت. It's like, a principle, okay, for its lifestyle. Okay, for us, it's a principle for us. Why we have to move and why we have to adopt a new culture. Why we have to understand and know belonging. It's not to the home country. It's belonging sometimes for certain things, certain areas, certain countries where you can find safety life. You can grow your kids. You can have a decent
Stability.
Yes, stability. Yes,
The most
exactly.
important
Yeah.
part. Correct.
That's it. Yeah.
I love what you mentioned about the Quran as well.
Yeah.
And it makes
That's
perfect
it.
sense. Thank you so much for being with us today.
Thank you,
This
Firas.
will
It's my
definitely,
pleasure.
it will definitely not going to be the last podcast, and it was
Hopefully.
lovely having you today.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Yeah.